Darth Maul and Lucasfilm make their grand return to television in Maul Shadow Lord, the newest Lucasfilm animation that picks up Darth Maul's storyline in the wake of the Clone Wars before his appearance in Star Wars Rebels. The show hits the ground running with a daring credit heist on Janix by the Shadow Collective, led by Maul, whose stylish and violent entrance really got me hyped for the episode. Sam Witwer returns as Maul, of course, and is great as always. He's just made for this character. This is Maul at his most powerful and focused, and he's in command of every scene he's in. Lucasfilm Animation really went all out on the new art direction for the show, which is evident right from the go. It's the pinnacle of everything they have managed to build and learn through the Clone Wars, Resistance, Rebels, Bad Batch, and everything in between. Blending animation and even some live action stuff thanks to some matte paintings being used for the backgrounds, which just look fantastic. They give this real nice texture and feeling to the artwork that we have not seen in one of these shows before, outside of Visions, that is. This is everything I love about a Star Wars production, that willingness to try new things and push the envelope when it comes to technology. They've learnt so much over those last couple of shows that they're able to, do new things in the show, and they're not afraid to do those new things. Like, yeah, we're going to try, painted backgrounds. Maul's lightsaber is going to have a painted look to it when it moves and twirls around. The textures on everyone's costumes and clothing looks like it's been painted. It just looks like there's been time and effort put into it. And that's something we've seen ever since the first Star Wars film back in 1977. There's always been that push to try something new and to push the envelope in where technology, movie technology, special effects, sound, anything like that can go. And that's why I always really love Star Wars productions, because every single one of them has done that in some regard. Story-wise, the show picks up with Maul and the Shadow Collective trying to start a war between Nicodemus and Vario, two Janix kingpins who at one point in the past ended up betraying Maul back, I think, when he was running the Shadow Collective during the Clone Wars. They betrayed him, and he is seeking revenge, and doing so by igniting a war between both of them, basically trying to get both of them to kill each other. Or maybe not, maybe he's actually working with one of them. Again, I really like that Maul is in the shadows. He's living up to that name, Shadow Lord. He's doing all of these underhanded secret moves that no one ever really sees him do. They just see everyone else do. And we get to see that right here in that first episode, where he tricks both of these criminals to, get into a big war with each other and make it look like the other is betraying the other. And it's just fantastic stuff we saw a little bit of in the Clone Wars, and I always wish we got to see more of. So I like that there's a series that's exploring that and exploring that side of the Sith, that subterfuge that they would do. Thanks to Maul kicking off a criminal skirmish on Janix, it brings the attention of the police, led by Brander Lawson, who is played by Wagner Moura. Lawson appears to be kind of a by-the-book cop. Maybe he's got some dark past. We saw a little bit of that over in the tie-in comic for Shadow Lord, where he is the main character, and he very clearly has been, seeing the signs that something is not right with the underworld. Something's going on, and he's not really sure what it is, and that kind of puts him on Maul's trail. And he's constantly trying to find out more about Maul and who he is, because he is very much a mysterious being in all of this, only showing up brandishing a laser sword, and everyone ends up dead. I'm liking Lawson's story just because we've never really actually had a police officer per se as the main character. Technically we have, because the Jedi technically are peacekeepers, they're technically cops, but this is the first time we've actually had a law officer, and one who's not actually governed by the Empire. This is just like normal little planet, police officer. He's just trying to do his job, and I do like that there is that running thing with him trying to sort all of this out and trying to figure out what the hell is going on with the criminal underworld before the Empire do get involved. There's this hanging thing over his head from his higher-ups where if he does not sort this out in time, the Empire will be called, they'll come in, they'll lock down the planet and basically take over. It would basically mean that Janix gets taken over by the Empire and absorbed into the Galactic Empire, and that's something that Lawson does not want, and it's something that is hinted at that might have actually happened in the past to him, since he very clearly has no love for the Empire. So I'm intrigued to see what that's going to do for his allegiances going forward, whether he ends up maybe even teaming up with Maul every now and then, because Maul very much is about taking down the other criminal enterprises, but also his main goal is to deal with Sidious, deal with the Emperor and the Empire because of what it's become. So I'm looking forward to seeing that cat and mouse game between these two and maybe the inevitable team up that might come from it. Along with the cops, we also meet two new Jedi in that of Master Iko Diodaki and his apprentice Devon Izara, who are hiding out in the wake of Order 66, acting as beggars on the street to not draw any attention to themselves. Now, I really like the dynamic that is given between these two characters, at least in the first episode. They don't really have a lot to do in the second episode because they're split up. But the stuff at the start with them where Master Iko just really wants to, keep low, he's going to trust in the Force, this is how it was meant to go, is kind of everything wrong with that generation of Jedi, the prequel era Jedi, where nothing can deviate from their plan. They have their rules, they must follow them, they cannot break them under any circumstances, even if that means death. If death comes, then that's what was meant to happen. It's one of the things that led to their downfall. And then you have Devon, who is the younger generation and is frustrated by that thought process. She ends up getting arrested when she was trying to get them food because her master didn't want her to steal food when they needed it. He thought, the Force will just provide for it, when it very clearly had not up until then. So I really like the show going into that dynamic and showing us, the older generation of Jedi and this newer generation of Jedi, a newer generation who was probably a bit more impressionable. And we do know from stuff we've seen in trailers and from what cast and crew have said that Devon does become Maul's apprentice, whether it be forced or she willingly does it. It's still kind of left up in the air. But I kind of like that idea that, to finally get back at the Empire or to, finally have a life, she has to turn to one of the Jedi's greatest enemies in order to get that. And I think that'll be intriguing. As for the old master, I'm not sure what they plan on doing with him. I have a feeling he's going to fill the role of, that old sage mentor who then valiantly sacrifices themselves in order for, the heroes to escape. The Obi-Wan in A New Hope role. He's got that kind of written all over him, but I do like the little bits that we do get of him here where he's just kind of following behind everything that's going on and just kind of being in the right places at the right time. He gets a really cool action sequence where he stops Maul's transport just by standing in the road and using the Force, and that has to save a bunch of people from a falling bridge. It's really cool seeing all that sort of stuff and getting to see it in this new animation form, but I have a feeling he's not going to last very long, though. That would be like a really cool twist if even he too is like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm going to join with Maul. I don't think that's what's going to happen at all. I think he's too much of an old guard Jedi to do that. But it'd be interesting and, something I definitely would not see coming. I just talked briefly about action, and action-wise, the show really does shine with Maul twirling around his lightsaber, especially in a lot of tight corridors across these two episodes. He's twirling around against droids and pikes and everything in between. The gunfights too are really cool. I really like some of Maul's crew have giant minigun blasters. Just going to town on security droids in the police station. It's just fast-paced and unrelenting. It's just utter chaos. It's great. And it looks great in the new art style too. All of the blaster bolts and Maul's lightsaber especially looks great because it looks hand painted. It looks like they've taken the time to actually frame by frame hand paint it, and it makes it look just that much better. These were great first two episodes of the series, setting a really interesting cat and mouse game between Maul and Captain Lawson, as well as exploring more of the Star Wars underworld, something I've wanted for a very long time. And I like that we get to see what it's like in the wake of the Clone Wars and before the rise of the Rebellion. I'm very much excited about this series. We know there's going to be a season 2, so that's even better, but I'm intrigued to see where they're going to go with this series and where they leave Maul off by the end of it. I'm going to give these episodes an 8.5 out of 10.